But 20 years in the Legion will make a boy a man. 20 years in the Legion and they will give you land. 20 years in the Legion, you'll always have a home. 20 years in the legions of Rome.
Oh, hey guys, welcome to How Shit Works, the show where we look behind the curtain of how things work in the Kingdom of Maestrais. I, as always, am one of your hosts, Ulrich. I'm a knight, a pelican, and a royal peer with so many opinions, of which you'll hear many tonight. I am joined, as always, by the one, the only, Sir Erik Martell, the Knight of Kittens, the bringer of joy himself, with the cat right there, and his lovely, lovely wife, Baroness Gwenndolynn, who I will let him now introduce.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erik. I'm a knight. I'm a landed baron, and I have some really, really strong opinions. So, tonight's episode is going to be first in a new series about Meridian non-peerage orders, even though technically these aren't orders. And we're going to explore territorial barons and baronesses, but not like it sounds. Tonight's guests are Christine Silkewymman and Sir Lugh Naran, Baroness and Baron of the Barony of Osprey, and Maestrais Gwenndolynn ní hÁilleacháin.
Oh, very good.
Ooh.
Baroness of Iron Mountain and My Little Pooh Bear.
Yay! Thanks, Lou.
Gwen, would you please introduce yourself to the audiences and sort of maybe for tonight to establish an order, if we let Christine go first and followed by Lou and then Gwen, to sort of like, so we don't end up sort of like with that dead air where people are trying to decide when they should say and not wanting to talk over everyone. So please go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Christine Silkewymman, mundanely Christine Hayes. I've been in the SCA. How long have we been in now?
You've been in since 1990.
Since 1990. So been in for quite a while now. I've been Baroness of Osprey. We're trying to sit and count. We know it's 10, at least 10 years now. I'm a Laurel in Maestrais as well. And I've served in multiple offices of Feastcrated, Autocrated. So done quite a bit.
I'm Sir Lugh Naran. I'm a knight, landed baron for 10 plus years now. I have enjoyed the SCA since 1991.
I'm Maestrais Gwenndolynn ní hÁilleacháin. I am a pelican. I am a territorial baroness, and I have had the honor of being the Baroness of Iron Mountain since December of 2019.
When did you join the SCA?
I joined the SCA officially in 1990.
1990 was a pretty good year thereabouts now, wasn't it?
Year.
Yeah, it was a real good year.
She is also the newest inductee into the Order of the Chalice.
Oh,
Nice.
That's a humility order. She's never going to announce that.
No, I'm not.
Despite the shiny bright belt.
I love that. I hate to say this, but from henceforth, in my mind, you will always be Pooh Bear now.
I go by many other names. I've been called Field Marshal Pooh. I've been called the Pocket Pelican. I'm still called the Pocket Pelican, even though my noble predecessor, Baroness Genevieve, is now a pelican as well. She actually is about 2 inches taller than me. So there you go, Genevieve.
That is
I still call you
awesome.
Phil Marshall Pooh.
I've been called the Stormbringer by Duke Aelenon. That's a long story for another time.
And not broadcast.
Not broadcast.
It's I thought that was wielded by Ulrich, not Erik. But okay. Sorry, a little nerdism for you there. So I wanted to thank you all for joining us. Really happy to have you all. Tonight's word for the drinking game are some good ones. I think there's some stories here we'll have to get later. So Christine has given us moist. Lou has given us pizza. I love pizza. And Gwen, who thought these guys were being way too nice, decided to give us investiture to damage my liver with this wonderful Irish coffee that I made earlier. Remember, as always, the drinking game is opt-in. You do not have to participate if you don't want. If you wish to drink and not drink alcohol, that is perfectly acceptable. We're happy to have you participate or not as you choose. It's all for fun. All right. Also, we always like to thank Between Two Peers for allowing us to be a licensed and authorized franchisee of their drinking game. And with all of that, let's get to our first question. First up, Territorial Baronage, is it an office or a position?
It is an office. At one point in the SCA, it was not. It was a position within the local group, but I'm not sure exactly what year it was redistinguished as an official office. Now, the couple only counts as one office position within the barony.
Yeah, I concur with my esteemed colleague. It is an office.
This is the problem with efficient guests.
Yes, well, sorry, because before I was the Baroness, I was the Seneschal of Osprey. So, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And that being said, there's a distinction between what you do as a Baroness and the office of the Baroness, as opposed to, say, Exchequer. I was a former Exchequer in Iron Mountain, so there are some differences, and sometimes the line gets a little blurry. But it is definitely an office.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So since that was pretty efficient, we just got that out of the way. I'm going to roll on to the next question. What is the difference between a territorial baron and or baroness and a court baron and or baroness?
I'll let somebody else answer because I'm just going to answer that one succinctly if you let me go first.
I probably will as well. A court barony is given at the discretion of the crown. Period. End of story.
Yep.
There are people who hold a court barony are referred to as their excellency. A territorial baron and or baroness are also bestowed by the crown, but the populace is polled for their opinion. So it's not really a polling order, but there is other input aside from the crown's will.
Yes.
The plot thickens. All right.
Well, not to be rude, as we usually call hÁilleacháin, because we have a wonderful, hÁilleacháin is also a baron. He was not a landed baron, but he is a court baron. I don't know, how politically correct do I have to be on this show?
There's a disclaimer.
Right, we have a disclaimer.
There's a disclaimer.
Okay, so we refer to him as landless trash as our baron there, because he never held land, so
He was
he was just a vicar.
And you hold land in fief for the crown.
Yeah, so we hold land in fief, so we make the comparison. He does not have land. We hold the land for their majesties.
No, you're not the only one I've ever heard say non-landed trash, referring to court barony.
Well, it's a particular sticky point with hÁilleacháin, so yeah.
Oh! I did not know that.
Tell us a story.
I did not know that, but now that you've told me, I intend
we want to know.
To make that a crusade.
It's because he was a vicar. He was never a landed baron.
Hey, so, if you're watching, how's your land?
So we'll add the vicar on to the end because someone will need to explain to us.
Yeah,
I know. Explain to people what the vicar is. Actually, since we're whipping through these questions very quickly already, what is a vicar? This is my turn to go off script and throw Jess a curveball. Sorry, Jess. What is a vicar and where does it come from? What does it do? Cotton Eye Joe?
Cotton Eye Joe. A vicar, well, in our case, so to give a specific, we've had a vicar a couple of times in Osprey. We had it once when Rhiannon, Her Excellency, was Grace. The Grace now, yes, was the Baroness at the time and won crown. and became the Queen of the Meridies. So she appointed a vicar to hold the land while she had the position as the queen. Ucla held the position of a vicar while Sir Lex was serving overseas, and he was our baron. So with the permission of the crown, a baron, the barony can appoint someone to hold the land while the baron or baroness is not able to function in that position. And they can hold court and do those sorts of things.
And
act in position without the title.
Without holding the actual, yeah.
To the best of my knowledge, Iron Mountain has never had a vicar.
We can fix that.
I don't.
Something you should actually strive for.
Yeah, I don't.
Just means you need to move around.
Duchess Katrina is watching. She will correct me because she would know. I don't think Iron Mountain has ever had a vicar.
And we heard the man. Win crown.
Win crown. Yeah.
Yeah.
Win crown. There you go. You can have a vicar.
I don't fight. You fight.
All right.
So actually, surprisingly enough, this came up in a discussion with was it Thorcalla?
Wolfton and Thorcalla,
yeah. Because at the time we were talking about what would happen if we ever fought in crown and decided, and we were actually told if the Baron and Baroness wins crown, they don't have to appoint a vicar, because why would you have to? You're holding the land as a crown. So
precisely. But the crown has many obligations and demands on their time. So some may opt to do it, but no, it's not. I couldn't agree more. It's not necessary.
Right. It's not a necessity, but you can opt to do it. So
Options are good.
Options.
All right. So, what is the process of becoming a territorial baron or baroness? How long does the process take?
Well, I mean, from our side, I'm sure, Ulrich, you can speak more to the kingdom side of it, because I know you were kingdom seneschal during that process. From our side of it, I was actually group seneschal at the time that Lex was going to be stepping down. And so I went through the process as the seneschal to get it started. And it all has to do with, we have to have our polling rules as a barony. And and they've changed some since when we did them. I know the kingdom has had the baronies go through and revise a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
But as seneschal, I had to, of course, let the kingdom know, the crown know. We had to set a time and place. We had to let all the populace know. And then a polling was called. They send someone from the outside to have our polling for us. And for us, we polled so that we got 3 candidates, at least 3 candidates. Or actually, it was no more than 3 candidates. It could be less than that. And then those names were sent to the crown. Now, of course, the crown does not have to pick any of those candidates. It is, even though they do take the input from the populace, ultimately it's the crown's decision.
Yep.
And again, I couldn't agree more. What happened here with us, we have published rules in the barony for how the polling is to be conducted. That had to go through kingdom. Everyone had to revise those not too terribly long ago. The seneschal, our seneschal, Mistress Magdalena, got in touch with the kingdom and said, "Yep, we need to have a baronial polling." Nominations were, everyone was informed. Yep, we're going to have a call for nominations. So we had a meeting, and there was a call for nominations. And once the nominations were given and accepted, because you don't have to take the nomination, you could sit there and go, "Oh God, no, not me."
Yeah.
We ended up with one couple and two other candidates, and all the other 2 candidates uniquely and well qualified. We were in a wonderful batch of people who were nominated. We have an interview process where the populace gets to ask questions, and there's a one-on-one conversation with the group as a whole. I think we actually had that televised. And that was more than a little terrifying, let me tell you. The Kingdom Seneschal came down. He was in charge of asking all the questions. Thank you again, Ulrich, for making that trip on a weeknight.
Fun.
And then the kingdom, of course, sends out the cards for the polling, and there was you ranked your choices as 1, 2, 3, so we didn't have to have a polling and then another polling, and then if you had more than 3 candidates, and then ultimately the crown makes the decision, and you get the phone call.
And then we had our investiture. Everyone got moist-eyed, and we went out for pizza.
Actually, I was going to mention that in Osprey, we're very informal. We're in Mobile. So it was a very moist evening that we had on the investiture. And I think we actually ordered out for pizza so that the populace had sustenance during the process.
As a wise,
by the way.
So I was going to throw the voice in there already. You didn't have to do that for me.
Let's give Ulrich.
That was 6, by the way.
Let's give Ulrich. Ulrich has to drink through the whipped cream. Let's give him a second.
Let him catch up.
So, before Erik goes on to the next question, please, dear God, I'd like to remind our audience to please keep submitting those live feed questions, and we'll get to them at the end of the show. Just post them in the chat, and Graf and Katarina will catalog them, and we'll get them to them at the end. Go ahead, Erik. Woo.
Okay. So, why don't other groups / non-baronies have representatives?
They do. It's their seneschal. It's just not this. It's okay.
Get it.
Here it comes. They do. Their representative is the seneschal. The landed baronesses and barons and baronesses are not only the populace's representative to the crown, but the crown's representative to that populace.
Yep.
The seneschal of groups that are not baronies is the representative to the kingdom. Now, some people think of kingdom as a whole, and some people think kingdom as in crown.
Right.
They really do work together, and it's really just splitting hairs at that point.
But they don't get cool hats.
Splitting hairs. Really? Splitting hairs?
Erik says they don't get to wear cool hats. Sometimes they do if they're landless baronage.
There you go.
There you go.
I would like to point out earlier.
Like Ookla.
Like
Ookla.
Ookla!
I would like to.
Ookla. Ookla's very moist all the time.
Oh.
And he smells like pizza.
He does smell like pizza. Moist pizza.
I only have.
Like the kind we had at our investiture.
I meant to point out earlier, but I was too busy drinking, that while the crown doesn't have to choose who wins the polling or even any of the people on the list, they have to have a good reason to not choose one of them. I'm
right here.
Hey, Ulrich, we may be going through these questions quickly, but you might be on the floor before we're over.
I'm going to have to get another drink. I only made 32 ounces of Irish coffee. Jeez.
Just remember, nothing says Irish like tequila.
Right.
But no. I love tequila. No. This lovely 32-ounce Please Touch pottery mug is usually more than enough. All right, so
it's gonna be a fast but rough night.
It is. Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
It is.
So,
get him a towel. He's looking moist on the forehead.
Everyone, remember to tip your waitress. The 7 o'clock show is completely different than the 9 o'clock. All right, so what role does the territorial baron or baroness play in the kingdom?
All right. Well, I mean, there's a couple of different things. We've actually been asked by Their Majesty sometimes if they can't get to our area to actually hold court and give out kingdom level awards in their name, of course. And we've done that not just in our group area. We've actually gone over to
Aaron
Aaron
as
Hall
well
done
as
it.
Phoenix
Yeah,
Glade.
and done that. So that's one of the big things. Of course, we have to swear fealty for our group to keep our group in fealty. That's one of the big things that we have to do for the crown as well. I don't want to be the only one answering. Go ahead.
and here I'm sitting back here. It's like, go ahead, Christine. I'm trying not to talk. I'm trying not to talk. What
It was a bad thing to get me to go first. I'm sorry.
You were supposed to go first.
Yep, you were
you're
absolutely
supposed to go first. We haven't had the honor of having royal court and as vice regal for their majesties because there's nothing going on because pandemic. And we've only been in this office for two reigns. So it seems like so much longer, but it's only been 2 reigns. And the thing that we've done that I did not expect, I knew it was there, but it just never occurred to me that this would be something that would happen is vice regal communications with the crown. They ask your opinion.
Yeah.
We're thinking about doing this. What do you think? How would your group respond to this? We're thinking about having this as a discussion. What do you think? How would this go with your group? Do you have other suggestions? And that's been really wonderful. I did not expect it, to tell you the truth, because I'm an administrator. It never occurred to me that I might be a landed baroness ever. So it's really been fun. It's been a lot of fun and very enlightening for somebody who only saw the law and the legal side of things to see that part of the game side.
Yeah, we've had, and it just depends on the reign too. Like some crowns are not as forthcoming about asking our opinion about awards, but we've actually been asked by some crowns to like look through award letters, especially if they're not familiar with people, and ask our opinion, and we try to be completely honest. Keep our, personal opinions about people out of the way, and that's one of the big things you don't think about. You have to be fair. And some crowns don't ask. They just give out awards regardless. But we've had crowns approach us and ask us about people. And take our input, quite seriously. And that wasn't something I necessarily expected.
Well, you're excellent bits of fonts of information about your group, because you see that every day.
Right.
So before we get on to the next question for Erik, I wanted to throw in, we flipped out the phrase vice regal several times. What exactly does vice regal mean?
I would think it's in some ways we are, and I will say my personal opinion about the way that when I took this job, and I use the word job because I do approach this as a job. I am here to represent the crown to the people in the barony, and vice versa. I feel like we are the representative when we're out in the kingdom that represents a group of people. And so I'm very conscious of that. So, I mean, as far as the vice regal, I just see it as us being that representation for the people locally and the way we carry ourselves. It's in some ways, I think it can be hard because we represent the crown and we represent a group of people. Yeah.
We don't have much of an opinion.
We don't, sometimes I'm afraid people don't think, we have a whole lot of opinion. People that know me personally know I have a whole lot of opinions about a lot of things. But as the Baroness, I can't express some of that publicly because I feel like if I start spouting that, either people are going to take that as that's what the crown thinks, or it could be what's the group think. I have to keep in mind I'm representing a group of people, and if I say something, that reflects on them, and that reflects on the crown. So you have to be very careful about the appearance, and you have to think before you blurt things out and the way you act. People are watching that because you are the symbol of a group and your symbol for the crown in that group. So
I could not agree with you more. And the only thing I would add to that is that when you speak as the representative for your barony, either to the crown or as the crown to your group, be mindful that you don't want to discourage anybody else from having their input as well.
Right.
And I haven't seen it here, and I haven't seen it in many years, but there are instances where, well, Baroness so-and-so said this, so that must be the way it goes. And I'm just going to sit here very quietly and not say anything because I don't want to stir up trouble. And we don't want that. We want everyone's input.
Right.
And so we do, well, I do police a lot of what we say.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I try to come off very neutral about things. Like I said, I'm a very opinionated person. I can't let my personal opinions affect me being fair and representing everybody. And so I make a very conscious effort not to be very even,
very even keeled.
Dealing with people.
Yeah.
And I also know that if I come off a certain way, I can discourage people from participating in the barony. So I try to be as encouraging, and a lot of times I'll, talk to the seneschal and stuff and say, we got to be the champion, got to let people do things. Got to give people a chance,
And plus, you do everything. You simply cannot do everything. It's a job, and there's a lot involved with it, but you simply cannot do everything. And you have these wonderful, lovely people who will do a thing. They will do it very well. They'll move on to something else, and you want to encourage them at every step along the way so that they grow and enjoy the society as much as we have. Or
anybody that wants to try something. You got to encourage people if they want to try something to, let them try something. If they need help, give it to them. I mean, that's what all of us that have been in the SCA as long as we have. That's what we're here for.
I will admit I have a hard time with the regal part sometimes. This whole all of this. But I know that it's part that I have to play. I like downtime, like at events, I'll, kind of go off to myself so I can be not all of this. But I know that when I'm at an event functioning as the Baroness, that this regal part, and that's hard. A lot of people think, oh, it must be so cool to have people bow, and it makes me extremely uncomfortable. I'm just not a titles person. It's just hard for me to deal, but I do know that I'm also part of that pageantry part. That's part of the role. And, I make that very conscious effort. Christine has a hard time with it, but the Baroness of Osprey has to.
I agree. And people will call me Your Excellency, and I look over my shoulder for Genevieve. I'm still looking for my predecessor because that can't possibly be me. So.
Because I introduced myself as Christine, I have a very hard time, adding that. A lot of people, like when I'm functioning, will say, "Oh, this is the Baroness." It's just not, who I am. So you have to learn to kind of say, okay, that's just part of when you're functioning in that official role. Say it's your own events or you're doing court. I'm sure it's the same for the crown when, you have to understand that's part of it. Yeah.
No, that's great.
I happen to agree with what the other people said, despite the fact that I don't do any of that. And I just say what I think, and I just run out there and set things on fire. Yeah, I do agree they're probably right.
But you're so optimistic and enthusiastic about things.
Yeah.
That's really very important.
Yeah.
Especially now when everything seems like doom and gloom, and you turn on the television, and I just don't even watch the news anymore. But that's also important.
I just guess what I'm talking about is like, the kingdom has gone through, and we're not talking even, the stuff's going on with the pandemic is a completely different type of situation. But before that, there was a lot of controversy going on. I had to, and I'm not going to speak for Lou. I felt like sometimes people probably thought, oh, they don't, they're quiet about everything. They don't voice an opinion. They must be just, no, the point, when I was in a room venting to a bunch of friends, I had an opinion. But when I was out there at a Kingdom level event or an Osprey event, and people wanted to talk, well, what do you think about that? Well, if I were to say what I personally thought, it's not what Christine personally thinks. It's what Osprey thinks.
Yeah.
And I can't say that everybody in Osprey thinks the same way as I, and I can't throw that opinion out there, especially when it's very charged, and it's unfair. You know, I mean, yet Christine Nee is different from the Baroness of Osprey, and I cannot be throwing things out there when I have a wide variety of people that think differently, and I have to just keep that in mind, you know, in my role, and it can be exhausting, and I will, you know, it can be, you know. We've been doing this for over 10 years, and I will tell you, you know, we're getting, you know, it can be exhausting after a while.
So I think later on I want to circle back around to that, because that goes to a thing I think is true, and we'll play into that. But I'm going to go to the next question because it's frightened me. And it says, is this title for life?
Yeah.
Or is there a time limit like Crown?
Yeah, I know that sounds frightening, because we've been, it's not forever. And actually, to be honest with you, we never had the intention of staying as long as we did. You know, because I was the seneschal who did the polling that we were then, you know, and then I was stepping down, you know, I was the one that got I was the whole process. And I was like, Brian, yes, we can do this, but there's just no way I can go from being seneschal and then for us to be Baron and Baroness. It's just exhausting after a while. And circumstances, you know, just happened in our barony where it was just difficult for us to step down, in the sense that manpower. I mean, we were having problems filling seneschal and knights marshal, and you know, it was just, we stayed for stability reasons, because the other thing is we had a baron removed. You know, we had a very turbulent time leading up to us. There was a lot of change out. We had multiple pollings because we had a baron removed. We had one come in, and, you know, Lex had to, you know, and we had a vicar. And so we wanted some stability for a while. So our populace wasn't going through that change constantly, because polling times can be very unsettling times in a group. You know, it can be the best of times, but it can bring out the worst in people when the vying for a position takes place. Yes. So we wanted stability. And then it just got where we had a lot of people coming in, but then it seemed like the group, a lot moved out again. They went different places, they moved away, and manpower became an issue. You know, and then we got to the point where we were about, you know, getting in the process to start thinking about it, and then the pandemic came along. So to be honest with you, circumstances kind of stuck us in this position a lot longer than we ever considered doing it.
Yeah.
So
we were the next to last Baron and Baroness invested. So
yeah.
And the pandemic. So
yeah. Do some groups have like limits in their?
Some groups do have limits
where they have to be like a vote of confidence or whatever. I don't know the exact.
In their documentation for that. In Iron Mountain, by and large, in recent years, it's been about every 4 years that there's been a turnover.
Now you had a 10-year one. Marcel and
Kojum were there for I want to say 8 or 9 years, and Jean-Claude and Jamelin were Baron and Baroness for a good long while. And that was I moved into Iron Mountain from what was then Shire Eagle in 1993. 94, and Jean-Claude and Jamelin were Baron and Baroness then. And yes, it can be very stressful and tumultuous for a baronial polling. I think because of the perceived power.
Yeah.
That's there. Maybe it was just luck of the draw. Our polling was very calm. We had a fantastic time with it, and all of the candidates, we all agreed with each other that it doesn't matter who the crown chooses. We're here to hold each other up, and the rest of it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I would say too, having been in the SCA, there seems to be, like you said, where groups now have time limits. That was not so much a thing in the past. You tended to see, you know, like early on when I got in the SCA, you had barons and baronesses that had been there for a long time, were still there for quite a long time.
Go to
And
Linda.
I don't think the changes happen as much as they do now, you know, and then you had the great culling of the baronies, you know, because you had some that had been baron and baroness for so long, but they really weren't doing the job anymore. They weren't going and they were not swearing fealty, you know, at coronations and things. And the great culling, our barony went through that.
Yeah.
So I think our history as a barony, and that all of that played into how we ended up being a lot longer in the position than we probably wouldn't have if we had not had all that turbulence that went on. It was
the circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas I think with Iron Mountain, you had a much more stable situation. You know, most of the time. I mean, there's always some contentiousness in various times, but by and large, your most recent history, you know, with the barons and baronesses have been pretty steady. So.
And Gwenndolynn, who was the Baroness of Thor's Mountain when I started in 1990, who only stepped down a couple of years ago.
Right. Yeah. She was the Baroness when we stepped up.
When we came in.
You know, I'd never thought I'd be sitting. You know, we actually were at a, you know, Ulrich, it may have been it was your coronation actually, where we sat in a court with her. You know, she was the first Baroness when I got in the SCA, and I was like, what? You know, that was unbelievable. You know, she was the once and future, you know, Baroness type of thing. So
Ulrich, was that one of the ones that you had 3 pollings that you had to deal with as Kingdom Seneschal, right? Was Thor's Mountain one of yours?
It was the first one I did. Gwenndolynn was Baroness of Thor's Mountain for 40 years. And it was one of the hardest things that I've ever done in the FCA. You don't have to do it for 40 years unless you want it. It's okay. Breathe, baby. Breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
But it was one of the toughest things I've ever done in the SCA. It was also one of the greatest honors I ever had to officiate that changeover. And they've done very well with their new Baron and Baroness. And then, you know, it's gone very well. But most Baron and Baronesses have some type of, if not a term limit, then a period of time before a vote of confidence has to happen to see if they continue to stay. But it's all up to the different groups.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to the next question I see. So what is your title when you step down? Is there something similar to Countess and Countess that you get when you step down as crown?
All right, so I'll be succinct about this. No, there is not. Traditionally, you know, we retain.
Tradition.
You know, and actually, it seems weird. Most people don't realize we really only retain, even when we're landed Baron and Baronesses, our titles are really, you know, we take precedence, you know, like when we line up in precedence, we're taking precedence because of the land we hold.
Right.
Our personal titles are not affected by that. You know, I'm Mistress Christine because I'm a member of the Laurel. He's Sir Lugh because he's a member of the Knights. I mean, so we don't, you know, the chivalry. So we don't hold. So the same thing, when we step down, we have the titles that we already came in with. Now, traditionally, and it doesn't have to happen, a crown will usually give you the title of court baronessy. But they don't have to. That's not a requirement. We had a baron who was a landed baron here in Osprey, who, when that was in the culling, the great culling, was not given that title. So, no, there is no title that you pick up when you step down.
Yeah. So he wasn't moist like Ucla.
He was not moist like Ucla. No, he was not moist like Ucla.
He was apparently moist in a different way.
But he did, well, he was moist in a different way, but he did like pizza.
Who doesn't like pizza?
It was very interesting. I went to his investiture. Ulrich's got to get his.
Yeah. It was, yeah, all right.
Oh.
So, I'll move on while Ulrich is recovering. And
Yeah.
what is the most rewarding part of being Baron and Baroness besides being moist at your investiture where you had the pizza? And what's the most difficult?
It doesn't count if you worked it into the question.
I know.
Damn you.
It's tricky.
I know.
The most difficult is when they serve you moist pizza at your investiture.
Wait, you get pizza at your investiture? How
Well,
bad
yeah.
was your feast?
They ask you what you want to be
Yeah.
served. I mean, you should get pizza. It's just not good if it's moist. But your
Even at your investiture.
investiture is your special day.
Yes. Like a wedding.
It's like a wedding.
Wedding.
And you end up just as exhausted, just as tired, and just as frantic.
But seriously, to the question, probably the most rewarding to me, and I'll let you, to me is representing a group of people. I take that seriously, and that may sound doesn't make it rewarding, but I have always taken every effort to look the part because I want to represent Osprey as being wonderful.
Right.
We're hardworking. It's just that, along the coast, sometimes we always kind of feel like the left out kid, the redheaded stepchild down here. And so when I stepped up, I kind of took that as, no, I'm going to show them, Osprey's a wonderful barony. We know how to have a nice time. We know how to work hard. There's great people down here. There's a lot of people down here deserving to be peers. And, I guess I decided I wanted to be a walking advertisement, but I took great pride in that.
In all honesty, we represent.
You guys speak up.
In all honesty, we represent more than just Osprey. In the case of the coast being separated, we represent almost, the entire coast. And we try to help out along the entire coast. One of the most rewarding, I like being able to give out awards.
Yeah.
And see the light in that person's eye for being recognized for things they've been doing, whether it's ours personally or from the Crown.
Yeah.
Because we've been able to give awards for the Crown to other groups. They've asked us to hold court. Yeah. So I can completely understand the joy you get from the recognition of being able to give recognition for what they've done, whether it's arts and sciences, fighting, service, or anything else.
Yeah. And talking about being the face of the barony, to be that person too in a court, we've had several members pass away, major members that during our tenure, and to hold a court and I don't know, to also help the barony grieve, to be that representative. I mean, that was tough, but I didn't take joy out of the passing, but to be able to help the barony through that was, very important as well. I guess you can kind of say I take my job very seriously with the barony.
Yeah.
As well you should, because again,
it's like a gift being given to me. I want to, give it back better than what I got it, I guess.
Such is the way with everything in the SCA. When you leave a site better than you found it, you leave a group better than you found it. We like to, well, I won't speak for you, but I like to, I know, right? I like showcasing what people in this area can do. And a lot of times when we hold events, or if we're putting in a bid for a kingdom level event, we start asking other groups to work with us. So it's nice to have that team building atmosphere around things. And the difficulty, the most difficult, and again, I'm a relatively new baroness. The most difficult thing that I've found, at least, is Iron Mountain is a barony that is steeped in tremendous tradition. And sometimes it is very, very hard to not only live up to that tradition and, throwing an event with 2 weeks notice for the kingdom, that sort of thing that happens every once in a while. But with the respect that should come along with that, especially to our newer members who don't know any of these things. So it's been a little bit of a challenge, and of course with pandemic, it's more of a challenge to get those things.
Yeah, I guess I didn't answer the difficult.
You hate the answer fees.
Well, no, on a personal level, I'm comfortable around people that I know, but it's very difficult for me with people I don't know. So that's one difficulty. I have to kind of decompress. And I always get told my face. Everybody's like, "You're just angry and mean all the time." I'm like, "No, this is just my face. I'm sorry."
You're just thinking.
I mean, but legitimately, one of the difficult things has been sometimes you feel when people are unhappy with the barony because you are the physical embodiment for them. When it comes to the two of us, he's the nice guy. Everybody sees him as the nice guy. And even though I'm not being mean, in some cases I've been the punching bag, like if it's been hard sometimes, like a lot of stuff that has happened locally, if people become unhappy or disgruntled, I get painted, and it's been hard, emotionally sometimes to have to deal with that as the bad guy. For things that I've never done or said before, but because, and he's the nice guy, so nobody wants to blame him. So if we're going to be angry at the barony and the people at the top, it sometimes gets directed at me, and that's probably been the most difficult thing. It can be
as someone who suffers from resting what the fuck face, I totally understand.
Yeah.
I have what my seneschal refers to as resting scientist face. She has the same face, but it's usually because you've asked me a question and I have to think about it for a second. Yeah. Okay, here we go. But it's in a similar fashion, I'm married to this charming man. Do you know how hard it is to be the wife of the Knight of Kittens? The man who can absolutely do the jovial, happy, the fun guy. And here comes Gwen, and she's going to remind us that we have to file the report and do the thing. And
I agree with you. I'm in the same boat. He's not that, but he's the Mr. Social, nice guy, and Lou, and he's the sweetest man, and blah 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 blah. And then here I come. I have to be the mommy. That's it. The mommy. I mean, it's just like, and then I have Ukla as a seneschal I have to deal with. You know how many balls I'm having to juggle in the air?
I never thought about it like that. We are gifted with a fantastic
mommies. We have to be the mommies of the group, and they're the sweet daddy that everybody likes to, daddy will take us out. And no, mommy's the one that has to discipline.
Daddy's taking everybody out for pizza.
Right, daddy's taking everybody for pizza, and then the balls I'm having to juggle are moist because Ukla's involved. He's a seneschal.
I'm now uncomfortable with this conversation.
This actually is my most rewarding and my most difficult are actually the same thing, and it is actually going to tie into what everyone else has said, and that's for me is representing people. Yeah. It's the most rewarding because you do get to represent people, and you get to hopefully help shine the light on their accomplishments, but even more than that, you sometimes get to help them go along the way to achieving these things, and that's very cool. The difficulty is that I'm somewhat of an extrovert, and I know, right? And I've never really met a stage I didn't like or a spotlight that I couldn't stand in, and so because of that, you really have to try very hard to sort of pull that back because
other people need to shine.
Because we have so many introverts in the SCA, and it's very easy for extroverts, particularly very big personality one, to just absorb all of the light in a room, and so you have to not do that, even though it's your natural inclination to do exactly that. So. And that's like a constant worry that I have sometimes, particularly in representing the group, is that I want to encourage things and I want to help people do things and I want to make good things happen, but it's got to be about the group and not about this one person, regardless of the position that they occupy in it. And that can be a fine line to walk sometimes for some people. And that's probably what I struggle with the most.
Well, that was a lot. It was good stuff, though. So in the throughout the year, do you guys just deal with stuff yourselves and with the crown, or do you meet with the other baron and baronesses, other territorial baron and baronesses, or the other vice regals, and discuss what's going on?
Well, it depends on the crown. A lot of crowns will have luncheons or breakfasts where we all get to sit down and talk to each other. So that, I mean, in my experience, that's usually how we would communicate with each other. We all get to sit down and have lunch together, or God forbid breakfast, Ulrich, because I don't like to get up in the morning, and I had to get up for a breakfast. I was like, oh my God, what are you doing to me? Okay. But yeah, I had
a busy day
and go there for breakfast. But anyway, that's when we would communicate usually. So
pandemic, nobody's really meeting anywhere, but we do speak with our cousins to the north and to the south occasionally, and to the east in particular.
Hey,
almost
look,
daily.
I talk to Baron Wistrick from Southdowns about every day, which you can probably figure out from all the trouble that we get into. I'm not sure that's really a part of our vice regal.
No, but I mean, we communicate because we all know each other. We've all known each other for a few years, and we have this wonderful thing in common. Now, when we all get together again, I think that will happen in person, obviously, more frequently, and I think that'll just strengthen what has begun online. The last time I saw Their Excellencies Gladenfeld was probably MCA last year. Yeah. And that was before that they knew they were going to be invested, but they had not been invested.
Well, that was the last event before the lockdown.
Yeah,
and of course Their Excellencies Southdowns were there as well. So, and that was the last time I think we all had the opportunity to get together with Their Excellencies Gladenfeld. Their Excellencies Gladenfeld were there as well, and us and Southdowns.
The vice regal cocktail.
I know exactly who to ask about that.
I had a suspicion you might. So, moving on before I get myself banished. What do you want people to know about the work involved and the responsibilities of your position?
Oh, good list. I know. I'm joking. I really, I think from people standing on the outside, they just think, oh, look, you get the cool, headgear. You get these nice chairs to sit in. You get to do court. Oh, and you get invited to all these luncheons, and you get to sit at feasts sometimes. And they just like all that trappings. But I think if you're taking it seriously, like we've been talking that we're representative of a group, you have to realize there's a lot of work that goes into that. And you don't realize it till you get in. I think that people that have been crowns can understand, but just think about for us that it goes on a lot longer. We do hold courts. You have to think about that. You have to organize those types of things on a regular basis. And then you have to remember you've got to go and swear fealty. So you need to be at coronations. It really is a lot more work, I think, than people realize. And I hate to, and I'm not saying, but it can be a lot of time consuming, money consuming, travel and things like that. And I don't think a lot of people think of it as a job sometimes. They think of it, I'm just going to dress up and sit in this chair and it's great. But you have to be the cheerleader, the counselor, all the different, there's multiple roles that you play within the local group and then on the kingdom level. And I don't think people think about that. And it's my thought is if you're going to do a good job, think about the fact that you're a representative for all these people. And, you know, if you have that conscience, if you're going in it with that mind of, I'm not in it to be able to wear all these fancy things and just sit up here and have these luncheons, but I'm actually here to, like I said, you know, give back a group when you do step down that's in a better shape than when you got it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's a lot of work, but that, you know, that's me. That's the way I went into it. I'm going to shut up.
No, I agree. It's a lot. It's a lot of work, and you've got to enjoy it, because if you don't enjoy it, it's going to show, and it's going to turn off your populace, and it's going to reflect badly on your crown. And like you were saying earlier, you're the chief cat herder. You work with your officers to make sure everything is lined up. Somebody needs help. Somebody needs advice. You're doing this great thing. That's awesome. Keep doing it. Keep going. Hey, hang on a second. You're running over people. Why don't you dial it back a minute and let somebody else do this thing with you as well? Why don't you hey, how about you teach this person this thing that you're very excited about? And it's very trying. And I say this as somebody who's been in a seneschalate position before, but I think because it's a barony and because of the job that the landed barons have, it's more concentrated, for lack of a better term, because you're living in the middle of it. And you want to do the very best for the folks that you are working with, that you live with, that you see all the time. Mm-hmm. And you want them to shine so that the whole group looks good, so that Maestrais looks good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do want to add one thing, and this is going to be part of my hot take for the night. People vastly overestimate the actual power that you have, which is 0.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There is
the seneschal has all the power.
The seneschal has all the power. The only sort of power that you have at all is whatever social capital that you have built up along the way in the society by doing things and helping people and all of that. And then sometimes people will give you what's referred to as soft power because they believe that you are a good person or that you are knowledgeable in your field, and then they will come to you and they will let you influence them. But really don't understand, like, if you come to us with something that you don't like, that doesn't mean we can fix it. It doesn't mean we can make it go away. And it also doesn't even mean that everyone agrees with you that you're right.
And we're here to help with that as much as we can.
Yep.
But the seneschal, when things go sideways in a big way, and they do sometimes.
Yep.
When things go sideways in a big way, it's your seneschal who steps in and has the big hat. Now, I will disagree with my darling husband for just a moment, where he said that there's 0 power. The tiny little bit of power that we have is that we communicate with the crown. We can directly talk to the crown and say, we've got this person in our group that we believe is deserving of an AOA or a Meridian Cross or something. Now, some people see that as power, and it is, because it's influence. Hopefully it's influence, and it's good influence. But again, when things go horribly, horribly wrong, at the end of the day, it's the seneschal who has the corporate side power for that sort of thing. And we help out with our officers as much as they will let us, and as much as we need to.
Right. Look, if someone calls you a weenie, we can't have them executed.
No.
Like,
I can't make your
What if I
fiance
call you a moist pizza? Can you do that?
Oh my God.
and so,
Do you have that power? Do you have that power to do something about that?
I can call the Domino's guy and complain.
right. Literally, I mean, we can get a moist pizza. That's a power that we have.
Well, and I would say I don't ever feel that I have any power. I actually think of it as I have a responsibility, if anything.
Yes.
It's not power, it's
Power.
responsibility. And it's a responsibility to a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
Oh my God, y'all are killing me. In a good way. In an absolutely good way. All this sounds bloody exhausting, actually. So this really does sound like a lot of work. How do you get all this done? I mean, as somebody who spent, a year as Prince and Crown and 3 years or 2 years as King of Seneschal, how do you get all this done? Because you're constantly on for 10 years, 4 years in Gwendolynn's case. Probably going to be 40 years for Gwen and Erik. I said it just to share.
Okay.
He said 4.
Stop being a moist piece of pizza, Ulrich. Stop being a moist pizza.
I'll bid you up. Eric will be there for 5.
That's going to end
Join
up
us
on
in
a
the after show when you hear the story about the moist pizza thing. 'Cause I have to know what this is about.
That's going to end up on a T-shirt somewhere, and we're going to have to explain it.
An adult-only conversation.
Yes.
But
Anyway, how do you get all this work done?
There's at least 2 of us.
To be honest with you, and we didn't really touch on this, you don't have to have a couple as Baron and Baroness. We've had single, but I'll tell you what, considering all the stuff that has to get done, I would not want to be a single person trying to carry this. At least with the 2 of us, we can kind of, divide things. Now, yes, am I the managerial person that'll get him going and push him in a certain direction? Yes. But overall, we can still divide activities and get that covered with the 2 of us. If it was just one person, I don't know how, individuals do it, because it is time consuming.
And again, I agree with my esteemed colleague. We're also gifted in that we have really fantastic baronial officers.
Yeah.
So, and we're fortunate that we all get along. We all work together really, really well. So that's also helpful in that. But when it comes straight down to it, the travel, as little as we did, but there's travel, there's meetings, there's conversations that you have, there's awards that have to be worked on. We're actually talking about creating a new award in our barony. So there's that going on. There are scrolls to be done. There are letters that you have to ask for. There's
a big part of it is knowing who you are and knowing what your weaknesses are, and then knowing those people who can help mitigate those weaknesses. Like, I will go running for Adelaide like at the drop of a hat, and I will be Adelaide. I do not understand what is happening. Save me.
That's Dame Adelaide, who literally held our hands and walked us through our first court because we were like, oh God, now what?
Yep.
Oh yeah. Well, I think the other thing too is look at each other and see what your strengths and weaknesses are, and where. Like, I was absolutely petrified. Like right now, I'm talking and I'm a teacher. I'm used to doing this kind of stuff, and like, I'm not a quiet person around people that I'm comfortable with, but with people I don't know, and so the thought of my first court like made me nauseous. But he is, that affable, talking to people kind of person. I had to drink something to get over the nerves through my first court and to even get comfortable. Now I don't have a problem standing up and talking in front of court. And it's weird because I'm a teacher. I stand up in front of students all the time, but that scared, so I knew he was good with that. So understanding where our strengths and weaknesses, whereas I'm a schedule person, I do the administrative stuff behind the scenes. So I let him be the pretty Baron and just, throw him out there, I sat in Kingdom Court. I always sit on the outside, so I can escape if I have to, it's just, so knowing your strengths and weaknesses, that helps a lot too.
So this has been a really rough time for all of us. What things are you doing to keep your group together, but separately?
I would sit and say with our group, we haven't a whole lot. And part of that is situation, as much as I joke about Ukla and I love him to death. For those of you that don't know, we almost got married a million years ago. Anyway, so I have plenty of reason to be able to
deal with him.
But I love Ukla to death. He's had a lot of health issues, and he is highly susceptible during the pandemic. We have several members of the barony that it's a major issue. So I'd have to say for Osprey, the pandemic has kind of brought us to a standstill. I'm a teacher. Our situation has been really hard as teachers this year. I will say I've been mundanely just kind of overwhelmed this year, and it's been hard. And probably we haven't, I feel guilty sometimes that I probably haven't done enough for the group during this time, but it's almost like we all went to our own holes. We still, know we're the barony and we still try to communicate. But right now, I guess we kind of just have our heads down right now. We're just trying to stay as intact as possible. Yeah. But, like Ucla's had a stroke, and then he had, the appendicitis. And like I said, we have other members that have gotten sick, and it's been hard. So I guess we've just been trying to put one foot in front of the other, and just so that we have an existing group when we come to the other side. Other than that, I can't sit and say we've done a whole lot else, and I guess I kind of do feel guilty about that. But it's just been hard, but we're trying to just keep the group intact. So there is something when we do get to the other side, and it's not completely disintegrated.
That makes a lot of sense. When this first started for us, we made sure that we had like a specific class night, and we had one class a week, and that the class sort of became a class/gathering, and then we would have dinners every few weeks where like we would meet on Zoom. Right. We weren't together, but we get together and just talk. And then towards the holidays, we sort of shut that stuff down because everyone was getting into the holidays, and regardless of how you were celebrating them or whether you were traveling or not or whatever, we didn't want to put people in the position of talking about what they were doing, because that entire scenario is fraught with peril, particularly if it became an issue on social media. And then since then, I think people got really, really tired at the end of last year. And so we did something similar for the first couple of months of this year. But now I think there's a sense of optimism building. And I think people are starting to feel really good about it. And so we're probably going to go back to that as sort of warm-ups for like when we can begin to really start doing what we think of as the real SCA. I know there are you say that, but but like that's sort of what
we're in talks now about, Gatalop, and starting when things can we do this, and trying to do behind the scenes, starting to get that kind of stuff too. But I have to agree, like I said, I was a teacher. To be honest with you, I'm feeling hopeful. I've had my shots. I'm well past my 2, and I'm feeling hopeful again about stuff. But for the longest time, I couldn't bring myself, and a lot of us in the Barony couldn't bring ourselves to do online SCA. As a teacher, I'm on Zoom all day long, working with technology, teaching kids, and trying to communicate. When I got home, I did not want to do, I guess I was very resistant, and it was just because I was so exhausted and just couldn't. But now so I think we'll start to see ourselves come out that other side. But I think we just kind of curled up into a ball to a certain extent and just said, we just want to survive through this. And a lot of us are starting to talk about maybe being able to get back together, because a lot of us are getting our, vaccinations again. Like we agreed to do this show. We've started to, actually do a little bit more Zoom connections with people now, but it was so painful and hard, at the beginning. So I personally, I say I avoided a lot of that because it was too hard to deal with. I was too exhausted. I was too overwhelmed.
I think that was that way for a lot of people. So it's perfectly understandable.
And we're a barony full of medical science people, health providers, and teachers. So the weight of everything that it weighed very heavily on a lot of us.
So we want to cover a couple of things right quick. We're actually doing we actually bowled through a lot of the time. First off, His Majesty posted something a few minutes ago that I wanted to go ahead and cover, which was that they are working a surprise update from the Crown. We are working on a special order and honorific that may be awarded to former territorial baron and baronesses. That's from His Majesty. So that's something to look forward to in the future. And the other thing I wanted to cover right quick before we get into a couple of live feed questions is I received a personal message from someone saying that they didn't appreciate being called landless something trash, and I'm not going to say what they said. We didn't call anyone landless something trash. Landless trash was made as a joke to Ukla. It was not intended to offend anyone. If it offended you, we're very sorry. This is,
I apologize. I'm going to say throwing it at Ukla.
Ukla is my foster squire and former foster squire and a fantastic friend, and we all love Ukla dearly. And we did not intend to. I don't believe that he was offended. But it wasn't aimed at anyone else. If you took it personally, we deeply apologize. And it's just a silly term intended to poke fun at court barons, which you should absolutely be proud of having and getting in any way, shape, and or form.
Yes.
All right. Now that that's out of the way, do anyone else have anything on that before we move on to happier questions?
Now let's hit the questions.
Awesome. Throw up the first live feed question, Alice. Oh, it's already up there. My bad. I was scrolled up. All right. So I was scrolled up reading something else. All right. So did any of you change your persona to match each other, or were you already matched before becoming Baron and Baroness? And if you did have personas, would you have changed them to match? That's from Pixie.
Hey, Pixie. No, we were already both 14th century English before we became Baron and Baroness.
Yeah.
Hi, Pixie. Hope you and the baby and everybody are doing okay. We are, well, he says I come from a time where there might as well be sharks with freaking laser beams.
No. You're like what, 12th century?
I'm 12th century.
She's 12th century. That's like spaceships and lasers.
Right.
Anything after the Battle of Hastings is science fiction.
So to answer the question, no, we did not have the same persona per se between the two of us, and we have not changed our personas to suit each other since we have been invested. But we did go Frankish for our investiture because it's fun. And we got to play around with some 6th century Kentish clothing, which was a lot of fun for me as well.
I also think she was afraid that I would show up in a spacesuit if we tried to do it 12th century.
I was afraid of that.
I mean,
I really was. Yeah.
Also, everyone drink on that one. Cool.
So, our next question is also from Pixie. Are you up to something, Pixie? If the crown chooses someone who didn't win the popular choice, do they have to explain why they went with a different candidate? I don't think they have to explain. Maybe they might.
So Baroness Christine actually addressed this earlier in the show. There's everyone knows who's been nominated and everybody knows who they polled on. What they don't know is the outcome of that polling, and that is probably for the best. So the crown makes their decision, but if the crown does not make their decision of those candidates, they have to have a specific reason why, and that is that gets along with the Kingdom Seneschal who's waving, former Kingdom Seneschal who's waving. So
they'll have to explain it to the Kingdom Seneschal if they don't choose one of those, and they'll have to explain it to the Society Seneschal because if they're not one of those, you have to have a good reason. Actually, if they're not the one that gets the most votes or the most highest percentage in the polling, they'll have to explain it to those people, simply because they'll need to know, because the Kingdom Seneschal has to report the findings of the pollings to the Society Seneschal, and if the person the group chose isn't one of those, the crown will have to have a good reason. Not to say they can't do it; they absolutely can. It's totally within their rights. But they'll have to, Lucy, you got some explaining to do to the Society Seneschal. And the Kingdom Seneschal has to explain that in the send up to society. All right. We got one more. We got time for one more before we get into the final portion of the show. And if you submitted a question and we don't get to it here, come to the after show and we'll talk about it there. So Clyde asks, can a barony secede from a parent kingdom? Has it ever happened or been tried?
Meridian.
Not in Maestrais that I'm aware of.
No, not in Maestrais.
See, that would be treason.
Yeah. Is that Owen? That's Owen. Okay.
Yeah, that's Owen.
No, to the best of my knowledge, in Maestrais, that has not happened.
Yeah.
I mean, because we only hold the land for the crown anyways. So, I mean, I guess if we would try and wrest it away,
Yeah, I don't see that.
I mean, honestly, just thinking about that in terms of in terms of corpora and in terms of kingdom law, you can't wall off a barony that's surrounded by other territory unless you're on the coast.
well,
So
And you're willing to take the whole area principality with you.
Yes.
Let me be clear. No one has ever considered seceding with their barony and calling it Rohan.
No one
Until now.
Until now.
oh, and please don't throw that word principality when referencing the coast.
Please no.
We don't need that all frothing up.
Our phone is ringing.
All right, so we're going to take that as the last live feed question. We have about 6 more. If you guys want to head to the chat after, or to the Zoom after this, and we'll try to get them addressed there. All right, Eric, if you want to take us to the
I got you. So this is your last chance to cover anything on any subject you want to cover. Anything you want to say, no matter how wild or controversial, it's your chance to say it now. Christine, would you like to start?
I think I already stirred up a controversy by calling Ookla landless trash. Clearly.
Instead of moist pizza.
Instead of moist pizza.
Instead of moist pizza. I took my moist foot and put it right in my moist mouth.
We told you you didn't have to be politically correct, and you don't. It's okay.
You don't.
There's
all right.
There's a disclaimer for that.
There's a disclaimer.
Lou, would you like to say something?
He's not controversial at all.
I know, right?
That's why he's
not bad.
You don't have to say something controversial. You can say something you want.
Right, you can say something nice.
You can
say something nice.
I love my kingdom and barony. There we go.
Woohoo! See, there you go.
There you go.
See why when people get mad, they go for me and not him?
It's hard living with somebody who always says the right thing at the right time.
Wait, who would that be?
I don't have anything controversial. Folks, if you can, go get your vaccine because we love our kingdom. We love our barony. We love each other. We want to see everybody as soon as possible and safe.
I have something controversial.
No.
Tacos are inferior to tamales. Fight me.
His Majesty is going to come in here and thump you. Her Majesty is going to be very cross.
Yeah.
It's like you say that like he wasn't going to thump me before.
I just think I'm gonna focus from my. I feel my squire talking. Laylee is telling me in my head right now, embrace the power of and.
Yeah.
Have tacos and tamales.
And tamales. But not with Irish coffee.
But not with Irish coffee. Because that's
not with Irish coffee. No.
You're not the boss of him.
That's probably not a good
All right. So we all answer these. Are there any shout outs that you have, other shows that you watch that you want to tell other people about? People doing great things in your barony or your kingdom that you want to point out?
Like I said, we've been rolling the ball for a year.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Between Two Peers kicks ass.
Between Two Peers is awesome.
Okay.
Hound and Stag keeping everybody connected. The Saturday Night Meridian review of fighting. Thank you so much to keep our fighters engaged. We can do arts and sciences to a limited extent online, but you cannot get together and fight online. And I know this has been really hard for both the heavy martialate and the rapier community as well. So thank you so much for doing that.
You don't think we can fight online? Watch.
No, I don't mean like Facebook fighting online. I mean like fighting.
Here.
Yeah.
We're not having any Facebook fighting online anymore. That's exhausting.
We don't need any more Facebook fighting online.
No, it's exhausting and pointless.
All right. You got something, Eric? You look.
No. You got to do your shout outs.
Okay. So,
Okay.
a little slightly less than shame or more than shameless self promotion. You can see me and Duke John the Bear Killer this Thursday on Ask the Knights Live, which will really be, you can see John the Bear Killer on Ask the Knights Live, and I'll be over in the corner being the not popular. So it's all good because all the questions are going to be towards John. Also, don't forget to check out Coach's Corner. Coach's Corner has some good stuff every Friday, and then every other Monday, I believe, they do a fighting review show with Duke Sean and Duchess Helga and a couple others. And check out Cal and Sean's What It Takes to Be a Knight show that comes on every other Sunday.
All right. Well, folks, we'd like to say thank you to Christine, Lou, and Gwen, also known as Pooh Bear. We'd like to thank our support crew, Her Ladyship Jessica of Osprey, who controls everything that happens in the universe. We'd like to thank Mistress Adriana for her wonderful scripts, Her Excellency Katerina for taking her blood pressure meds so she can try to keep us on time, Lord Kikuchi, who for all his technical support. I promise that I'm going to try to hit you as often as possible when we get back to fighting. And most importantly, to our audience, because if you guys weren't showing up, again, this would just be me and Ulrich talking to ourselves and sounding insane. We also have merchandise. Yes, we now have merchandise because this parallel universe is weirder than most.
So weird.
If you have any desire to have Ulrich and I all over you, please visit hound-and-stag.com to pick up your Hound and Stag merchandise today.
We didn't have it in the feed. We also like to thank Lady. I can't pronounce that. Charmone.
Margaret. Her name is Margaret.
Margaret. That is not what that says.
That's exactly what that says.
Right. Next show, we're going to deal with these people and their Celtic names. Ow.
Lady Margaret, my bad. Thank you. I apologize. Anyway, please join us next Monday for our episode. We'll be discussing retinues and how they work. We'll have Baroness Gwenndolynn, the former chancellor for Bart and Oda, and Baron Gwydion, who is Katerina and mine's travel coordinator. Remember, all shows 6 p.m. Central Daylight Time, not standard any longer.
Easy.
Or is it standard now?
If you're watching live, give us about 5 minutes for a break, and then feel free to join us on Zoom for the after show. Watch the live feed comments on Facebook for the link. We'll hang out and chat for about a half an hour after the show. Graf and Katerina is going to kindly post it now for everyone. Thank you so much for watching.
Finally, if you're watching the replay on YouTube or the live feed on YouTube, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button here.
Don't forget to smash that button.
Smash. I've had a lot of Irish coffee.
What was that?
Like and subscribe button down here, or if you're watching on Facebook, hit the follow and like up here, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye, everybody.
Night, everybody.
Take care of yourselves.
And if I die in battle, tomorrow I'll be home, though it's 70 days march to there from Rome. But a soul travels swiftly on the night wind, and if I die in battle, I'll be home again.